Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. Can Donald Trump fire CNN? The answer is yes, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But let's start at the beginning. On Wednesday, January 11th, 2017, President-elect Donald Trump held his first news conference in over 140 days. And that press conference was deeply disturbing, not because of what Trump said, but because of the way he said it. Trump refused to take questions from CNN's Jim Acosta. In fact, Trump told Acosta that, quote, "Your organization is terrible," close quote. Then, when Acosta would not stop trying to ask a question, Trump said, quote, "Your organization is fake news," unquote. In other words, Donald Trump called CNN terrible and fake news. But it wasn't the words that were upsetting. It was the fury in Trump's face. A fury that made every instinct in your gut scream that Donald Trump is going to get this guy, Jim Acosta, fired. And maybe even that Trump is going to fire CNN. Your gut said that Trump is going to trash and destroy one of America's 3 news networks. Or at least that's how my gut interpreted the fury in Trump's face. And frankly, it upset me in ways I have no words for. I've fought attacks on press freedom for a good part of my life. I've risked my career for that fight. And I've seen how government can crush you. The 6 biggest record companies in the music business in the 1980s, when I ran the biggest PR firm in the music industry, the Howard Bloom Organization, with clients like Prince, Michael Jackson, Bob Marley, Bette Midler, AC/DC, Paul Simon, Billy Joel, Peter Gabriel, etc. The 6 biggest record companies in the music business in the 1980s depended for their profits on government-controlled licenses. The FCC licenses for the TV and radio stations that they owned. And the government would soon demonstrate how it could punish those who did not obey. RKO was a massive media company that had been around since 1928. It owned some of the most powerful radio stations in America. But in 1987, the FCC refused to renew RKO's licenses. Yes, the FCC refused to renew the FCC licenses for 2 massive TV stations and for 12 radio stations. That's over $2 billion worth of properties at current dollar rates. Those $2 billion in media assets evaporated in a day. The record companies knew that this could happen to them too. Meanwhile, I was fighting against a group called the PMRC, the Parents Music Resource Center, a censorship group run by the wife of a future vice president, Al Gore's wife Tipper, and by Susan Baker, the wife of the White House Chief of Staff, Jim Baker. Baker was so powerful that he would eventually head the Treasury and then become Secretary of State. When Tipper Gore and Susan Baker sent a secret letter to the presidents of the 6 biggest record companies demanding that I be kicked out of the record industry, the company presidents took that letter's implied threat seriously. They could go the way of RKO. They knew they could lose billions. Fortunately, one of the most powerful people in the music business saw the letter and leaked it to the Hollywood Reporter. I was in Hanover, Germany, when this happened. I was meeting with the rock band The Scorpions, one of my clients. When I got off the plane from Germany and went straight into my office in Manhattan at 4 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, a front-page, 6-column Hollywood Reporter headline story was spread across my desk. And the sanitizing sunshine of publicity made it impossible for the record companies to freeze me out. Now, could Donald Trump do something like that to CNN? You bet your bottom he could. Why? CNN is owned by Time Warner. Time Warner is in negotiations right now with AT&T for an $85.4 billion merger. Because the merger is so enormous, it has to be approved by the government. It has to be approved by what one journalist calls Donald Trump's antitrust cops. When Trump held his press conference on Wednesday, January 11th, the negotiations between AT&T and Time Warner with the antitrust division of the Justice Department were set to begin in a mere 9 days. The day after Trump called CNN terrible and the home of fake news, the CEO of AT&T made a pilgrimage to guess where? Trump Tower, to meet the president-elect, the man who held the fate of the Time-Life merger in his hands. The man who also held the fate in his hands of CNN, the Time Warner property. The two men, it is said, did not talk merger. They talked jobs. And they talked about a good relationship between AT&T and the new White House. In other words, they talked about how AT&T could curry favor with Donald Trump, how to please the new president. One thing we've learned about Donald Trump from his presidential campaign is this: if you flatter him, he loves you. If you say terrific things about him, he says you are brilliant. But if you criticize him, things are very different. You get death threats. That's why Megyn Kelly, who asked Trump a critical question when she was hosting a presidential debate, has had armed guards for her kids and herself ever since, at a cost of a fortune. And she's not the only one. The thing that ticked Donald Trump off the most this week when he was holding his press conference came from Christian Steele. Now, who is Christian Steele? He's a highly respected MI5 agent, an agent of Britain's legendary spy service, who was hired by Republicans who did not want to see Donald Trump gain the possibility of becoming president, of being nominated for president within the Republican Party. This was what's called opposition research, and Steele was the perfect man for the job as a former MI5 agent. Steele quizzed his Russian sources and put together a 35-page memo on Trump's Russian connections and on Trump's allegedly booking himself into the presidential suite of a top-notch Moscow hotel, deliberately booking himself into a suite that had been occupied by Barack Obama, then showing his hatred for Obama by allegedly hiring a group of prostitutes to urinate on the mattress where Obama had slept. The Christian Steele memo may be disinformation, leaked by Russia to destabilize American politics, or it may be for real. It is being taken very seriously in America's intelligence community, and it's been spread all over Washington. Everybody who's anybody in Washington has read it. Does this mean you should be kept from reading it? Not in your life. The BBC reports that there are multiple sources supporting Steele's allegations, and that those multiple sources have tapes to back up their claims. Tapes, videotapes, audio tapes. But that's not what matters. Trump can punish CNN using the antitrust division of the Justice Department and using any other government agency he chooses. Or he can punish individual CNN reporters by stoking fury with his Twitters and with the man who he keeps on hand specifically to fan a frenzy among Trump followers, Trump brown shirts, Trump bully boys. That man is named Dan Scavino. So where is Christian Steele, the MI5 spy who went to his Russian sources and got 35 pages of damaging information on Donald Trump, information he felt was so important that he worked month after month after month after his job was over without pay because he was scared to death of what this information implied about the future of the United States. So where is he now? He's in hiding. Why? Because he fears for his life. Why? Because of the Trump bully boys, the ones who have threatened the life of Megyn Kelly. We'll totally skip over the fact that Trump loved leaks when they were helping him destroy Hillary Clinton. We'll forget the fact that a president can kill the career of any Washington journalist just by freezing him or her out of press conferences, backgrounders, and briefings. And we'll overlook the fact that Donald Trump lost the popular vote by a history-making 2.9 million votes. The only thing he won was the Electoral College. Unfortunately, it's not your vote or mine that counts, it's the Electoral College. And we'll get back to our original question. Can Donald Trump fire CNN? And can President Trump fire CNN's Jim Acosta? The answer, you bet. Yes, 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 he can. This is Howard the Humongous, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for the sneaky, sleazy, slimy, oh my God, have I got it? I think so. Little off button.